Ninguém melhor do que Joseph Mancinelli para falar sobre o Labor Day. O vice-presidente internacional do maior sindicato da América do Norte conversou connosco sobre esta efeméride e muitos outros assuntos. Mancinelli acha que, no final de contas, o setor da construção civil vai beneficiar da pandemia. Acompanhe esta entrevista, especialmente gravada para a edição de hoje. Hello, Mr. Joseph Mancinelli, and thank you for being with us today. Let's begin by talking about the importance of this holiday, the Labor Day. What does it mean, and how important is it for LiUNA to celebrate?
Well, it is one of the most important days of the year. I mean, Christmas and our family holidays are just as important, but Labor Day is a day where we celebrate all the great things that have been accomplished, not only by the labor movement, but we celebrate the good work that our workers do all over the world. And I know that in Europe, your Labor Day is May 1st, May Day, but in Canada, it's in September. And we're very proud of the work that our members do. LiUNA represents about 130,000 members. Many of them who are Portuguese descendants. Some of them are first generation and some are immigrants that have come to Canada to build our country. So we're very proud of our members because they have literally built this country. They've built the roads, they've built the schools that our children go to, the hospitals that now many are using during this pandemic, many of the long-term care facilities that our elderly are in. Our members' fingerprints are everywhere across this country. And we're very proud of them and their families, the great work that they do, and the contributions that they continue to make to our country here in Canada.
Mm-hmm. LiUNA began solely as a construction union, but members now work in various types of factories, as well as in stores, offices, healthcare, hotels, restaurants. Can you tell us more about the history of this union and how it got here?
So our union began in 1903, many decades ago, over a century ago, and it was built by immigrants. And the interesting part is that it was started by immigrants. It was continuously controlled by the sentiments of immigrants and the sons and daughters of immigrants. To this very day, the makeup of our organization is still basically made up of immigrant families. And so we represent mainly construction throughout North America. We represent somewhere around 600,000 members throughout North America. The largest concentration is here in Ontario, Canada, where we have the largest concentration. My good friend Jack Oliveira, who is from Portugal, represents the largest single local union within the international union in the Greater Toronto area. And they do a great job in representing construction workers, healthcare workers, industrial workers inside plants. They have a very large breadth and scope of jurisdiction throughout the construction industry. Even in the construction industry alone, LiUNA represents many different trades, from carpentry to masonry to cement finishing to pipe laying. The list is too numerous for me to start listing because then I will forget some for sure. But the list is very long, and we're very proud of the fact that over the years, since 1903, we have built a level of jurisdiction that, quite frankly, no other construction union or association or industry has created something as deep in jurisdiction as we have. So we're very proud of our members because they're very loyal. Our members are very loyal to our organization, and it's that level of loyalty that makes our organization unique. And part of it is because we are still, quite frankly, an immigrant organization, and we embrace a lot of the people who come in from different parts of the world. We still have a very large group that come from Portugal, but they come from also from Latin America, from Central America, South America, different parts of the world as well. And so, you know, that mixture of people, of multiculturalism, that fabric of multiculturalism also makes us strong as an organization as well.
You talked about the Portuguese community and its importance for LiUNA. Do you have any idea of the percentage of Portuguese members of LiUNA?
I would think that it depends on which area. In the Toronto, Greater Toronto area, I would say that we're still somewhere around 40 to 50% of our membership. Very large percentage. And in different areas, some of them are the same, 50%. And some areas could be a little bit larger, a little bit less. But we still have a significant amount of members that come from Portugal. And of course, their sons and daughters now are born here in Canada. And we're lucky enough to bring a lot of them into LiUNA as well. And so they are second generation Portuguese Canadians. And now they're coming into our organization. And we welcome that because, you know, you have sons, daughters, nephews, nieces that can come into LiUNA as well. And so that we keep a multi-generational group within our organization. We have many, many Portuguese members who are retired, some of them who have retired back in Portugal as well. And our pension plan here sends their pension directly to Portugal, right into their bank in Portugal. So, you know, we have a very significant group of retirees that have also retired that are from Portugal. We're very proud to have our Portuguese members because they are hard-working workers. Very hardworking. And in this day and age with the youth, that is very different. They do not appreciate the hard work that our older Portuguese workers did because this is a different generation. And maybe they're smarter than we are because they want to enjoy themselves a little bit more and enjoy life. And there's probably nothing wrong with that. But the generations are different. They're very different. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. But we need more young people that need to come in because a lot of those good, hardworking members are retiring now. They've worked all their lives and they're moving either back to Portugal or staying here with their families. So there's an opportunity for a lot of young people. And I hope that our immigration patterns here in Canada can change. And we've been lobbying very heavily with the Ministry of Immigration here in Canada, with the Minister Marco Mendocino, who's the new Minister of Immigration, that we need to open up our doors to immigration again, because I'm sure that there are young people in Portugal that would love to come to Canada and work in construction, because it's a very good trade. You can raise a family because, you know, they make really good money here. And I know that in Europe, in general, there's been very high levels of unemployment. And so this would be a great opportunity. But we need to change some of the regulations in the immigration department here in order to allow more immigration coming from countries like Portugal.
Still regarding the composition of LiUNA, can we say that most of members are from Portuguese origin, or is it too much?
Yes, no. I would say that the vast majority, whether they are Portuguese or first generation Portuguese Canadians or second generation Portuguese Canadian, the vast majority of them have a tie. And in many cases, their hearts are divided between, their heart is in Portugal and in Canada as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the pandemic for now. We all know that it had deep impacts on the economy. How did it impact the construction sector?
So in Canada, in general, right across the country, the construction industry primarily worked right through the pandemic. And so it was shut down only for about 2 weeks, only in certain sectors, in the industrial, commercial, and institutional sector. But by and large, the construction industry continued to operate right through the pandemic. And at the moment we have, I would say, 100% employment in many areas of Canada. So we have a very, very high level of employment here in the construction industry. But what's more important than the high levels of employment is the fact that we have very, very few infections of COVID-19 in the construction industry. And so a lot of people are amazed by this and say, why is this that there are very few infections? Because our members and many others in the construction industry follow very strict protocols, health and safety protocols, hand washing, wearing masks, social distancing. And so because they're following these protocols so well and so closely, we've been able to keep the numbers very, very low in the construction industry. When I say low, I would bet that overall in Ontario, which is one of the largest jurisdictions for construction in the country, there may be 10, 12 infections. That's it.
Wow.
In the entire construction industry, not just LiUNA, the whole industry. So
Yes.
that is a tribute to the courage that our members have had to work in the construction industry during a pandemic, but how smart they were to follow very closely the health and safety protocols, so that way they don't get infected and they don't bring it home to their families as well.
I mean, that maybe that wasn't expected, right? Because, for instance, in the agriculture sector, that's not happening. And
No.
it had also to do with the type of work. You really have to go out. You cannot stay isolated at home in order to work in a construction site, right? So was it expected that the levels would be so low?
And not to the level that we have seen. I think that we were optimistic, but I think that many of us expected that there would be a higher level of infection.
Yeah.
But that's because our members in the construction industry were very careful in order to make sure that they followed good sanitary, hand cleaning and social distancing, and being very careful. So lunch breaks. In the old days, lunch breaks, everybody was in one area together. Now everyone is divided. And in many cases, some companies now have multiple lunch hours. So that way the workers are divided. This has affected productivity to some degree because obviously, separating lunch breaks and breaks and going in an elevator on a high rise, you can only have maybe 2 people in the elevator going up. So productivity to some degree has been affected, but very little. And because everyone is following these protocols, there are very, very few infections. So in the agricultural sector, unfortunately, they have not been following good health and safety protocols. And in fact, here in Canada, we have a number of migrant workers who have come in from other countries in order to pick the fruit and the vegetables. And they're sleeping in quarters where there's, 4, 6 people sleeping in the same room. And this is problematic because if one person gets infected, it spreads very quickly amongst the workers in the agricultural sector. So this is a challenge here in Ontario. And I know that the government is working hard to make sure that they can protect these migrant workers who are working in the agricultural sector. It's really unfortunate because a few of them have died as well that are working there. But whereas in our sector, hardly anyone has been infected and no one has died. So it's very, very encouraging, very important.
And from what I understand, the sector hasn't been so impacted in terms of the economy, right?
No.
It remains strong.
Very strong. I mean, the construction sector is very strong. Unfortunately, the economy still got affected because when we were the only ones working and our members were getting paid, there was nowhere to spend your money. The restaurants were closed. The theaters were closed. Everything was closed. And so the stores were closed. So they couldn't even go buy a TV or go buy a new refrigerator if they wanted to, because everything was closed. And so the economy suffered terribly. Even though they were making money, they couldn't spend it. And so the money needs to circulate in order to keep the economy going. And so the economy here is still very fragile. And I would say that it's probably the same in many parts of the world, even in Portugal. The budgets are completely out of line. The deficits are growing by big numbers. And so it's difficult, and it's going to take, I believe, several years in order to recover from the economic impact of this pandemic. But I guess the only thing that we can think of that makes us feel a little bit better is that the whole world is in the same boat. We're all in the same boat together, because really, at the end of the day, every country on earth is suffering economically and socially as well, because we're all unfortunately affected by this terrible pandemic.
I don't know if you heard of this trend, but at least I've heard of it, and I also witnessed it somehow. Because people are staying more inside and staying at home, or even restaurants closing and hairdressers, etc., they are paying attention to some things that need to be rebuilt or to be renewed, etc. And that might have led to an increase in construction. Is it true?
Yes, absolutely. I think here in Canada, like many parts of the world, the governments, in order to save money and meet their budgetary limits, they would cancel projects. They would cancel many infrastructure projects, bridges, roads, sewer and water main, etc., water treatment plants. And so in order to balance the budget, they would cancel a lot of these projects. So we have an incredible backlog of infrastructure work here in Canada that needs to be done. And so now the federal government and the provincial governments are both talking about creating recovery programs, stimulus programs, in order to stimulate the economy. So even though we had so much backlog of work that needed to be done, now there's going to be even more work that our members are going to do. So I think that for the next 10 years, and I can't really predict beyond that, but for the next 10 years, I would predict that we're going to have an incredible amount of work here in the construction industry, because, quite frankly, the infrastructure deficit is probably 15 to 20 years old. We need to rebuild a lot of our roads, a lot of our bridges, a lot of our sewers, a lot of our infrastructure. And our hospitals are getting older, our schools are getting older. And so we need to rebuild a lot of our infrastructure. And, Canada is a fairly young country compared to Portugal and Europe. And so our building methods, mainly because of our weather, but also because it's a young country, we don't have, ancient structures that, were built out of stone. Here, everything is built only to last a certain period of time. And so a number of these institutions, whether they be schools, banks, government offices, etc., need renovations, need to be rebuilt. Plus, now we have an economy here in Canada, the green economy as well, where there is a lot of concern to make sure that a number of these office buildings and schools and commercial buildings are also environmentally friendly, so that the windows, in fact, keep the cold out and keep the heat out during the summer. So there will be a lot of restoration work as well across the country as well. So it seems overwhelming to some people, the amount of work that is coming out, but we're very happy that it's coming, because it's going to keep our members employed for a long time.
Can we say that somehow the construction sector benefited from the pandemic?
I think that ultimately, yes, ultimately it will benefit from the pandemic because a lot of work needs to be done. And if we have all of these stimulus programs and recovery programs for the economy, the construction industry will definitely be one of the biggest benefactors of that work.
Okay. What kind of measures did LiUNA adopt to stop the spread of the virus?
We're very proud of the health and safety measures that we have put in place. We worked very closely with the Minister of Labor, who here in Ontario did an exceptional job of ensuring that every job site had to have good hand washing protocols. So if you didn't have running water, then you had sanitizer, alcohol-based sanitizer that our workers could disinfect their hands. Before they entered the work sites, there would be a person at the gate asking them questions. Are you feeling okay today? Is anyone in your family feeling badly? Have you been in contact with anyone? Have you been away? And that's a big one, because if you've been on a plane, you never know. And especially if you've been to the United States, because there it's a bit of a mess right now. All of these questions have helped because they can catch maybe if someone is not feeling well or whatever. And if they're not, go home. Don't come on the job site and possibly infect anyone. Once you're in, masks, social distancing, clean hands, and many of our members wear gloves because of the work that they do. And so that's been very helpful as well, because, that limits the spread of anything as well. And, eating separately in breaks and at lunch, eating apart from each other, staggering the lunch hour to maybe 2 different lunch hours, going up in elevators, very limited group of people going up and down on the high-rise projects, the very tall buildings. And where you walk is important. They made sure that they have ways of walking through the job site so that people are not in contact with each other. And plus, what we have been promoting as well is a program of contact tracing, so that people can have an app on their phone or a wearable like a bracelet that you can trace where everybody is at all times. So if someone does get infected, we know who that person has been around, and so that we can isolate a very small group of people as opposed to shut down the entire job site, which is a very big economic factor as well.
This will be available for workers and their families, or only for workers?
No, the contact tracing would be available for everyone, for the family, for children, everyone, because that's when it becomes more effective, if everybody is involved in contact tracing. So we're very happy with the protocols that we have put in place, and our contractors, who are our partners. Obviously our workers work for our contractors. They have been very diligent in ensuring that these protocols are in place, and the government as well. Here, the Ministry of Labor has inspectors, and these inspectors have been visiting the job sites to ensure that these health and safety protocols are in place as well. So they've taken it very serious, and it's saving a lot of lives.
And is LiUNA giving any additional helps to its members during these difficult times, even though the construction sector, as you said, is not so affected? Yeah,
we're not doing anything special because everybody's working. So everybody's working. Their benefits are all in place. They're collecting their benefits, their drugs, their dental, their eye care. Everything is as if there is no pandemic, really. At the end of the day, their families are being taken care of like we take care of them always. So quite happy that the majority of our members are working. We have great benefits for our pensioners as well. Once they retire, they continue getting benefits. And we've had programs in place in order to communicate with our members to tell them that when work is finished, stay at home, because that's the problem. You know, if they go out and there's a party, or they go to a restaurant, because now some of these restaurants are open here in Canada, and we're afraid that, you know, the level of infection could go up again. And we have seen that in different parts of the world, you know, where they opened up and then all of a sudden there's a spike in the amount of infections. And so we've seen that also here in Canada, not in the construction industry, but we have seen it in a number of different sectors. So they need to be careful. We're communicating with them. This is not going away anytime soon. This pandemic, I think, will be with us at least for the next few years. I hate to say that. I know, but unfortunately, even if they find a
Vaccine.
A vaccine tomorrow morning, before they actually get that vaccine out to the public, and then there are people who won't take it anyways because they don't trust it. This is going to take a long time.
It's better if we expect the worst, right?
Yes.
Because
of course.
Everything that's good will always be good.
Of course. Of course.
So, Mr. Mancinelli, do you want to leave any final message to our community?
Absolutely. I want to say to our Portuguese members in Canada, their families here in Canada, and those who are in Portugal as well, how proud we are, the leaders here at LiUNA, of the Portuguese community that has done so much to make our organization so strong, but also to make our countries so strong as well. So we really appreciate the good work that they've done, and I wish them nothing but the very best and very healthy in these very difficult times.
Thank you, Mr. Mancinelli, for the opportunity and for that kind message.